Good morning and welcome to Church on the Net. I am so thankful you're here. Now I'm going to read from my phone because it's hard for me to read sometimes, hard for me to see. But I want to thank you all for joining us today. And today it's very dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about the first real bromance and probably one of the greatest love stories between two brothers that aren't related in the Bible. So we're looking at the story of Jonathan and David, and we're going to highlight it. I'm going to let you read it. It's in 1 Samuel 13. And I want to point out a couple points here. You see, the story of Jonathan and David tells a whole bunch of stories. But what we're going to look at today is the story of friendship, respect. And do you have those brothers in your life that are truly stronger than anything else, that would put you before themselves even? Jonathan and David had that relationship. Now, I'll get back to that story in a minute. But Jonathan and David, Jonathan was the prince of Israel. He was Saul's oldest son. And David met him when David was slaying Goliath. I'm not sure why Jonathan didn't get up and go and slay Goliath, but we're not told that. But the love affair started, the friendship started. A lot of people have tried to pervert this story. It's a true story. It's not a perversion. It's just true love. God created us as people to be around each other without having to do all the other things and be involved in all the other things, but just to love and have community with each other. Jonathan loved David so much, and because of the tenacity that he had with wanting to slay Goliath, he had a strong compassion for him, which was a healthy respect. Jonathan at one point had taken his princely robes and had given them to David. Now today we might think that's weird. Back then, that was a sign like, you're a part of my family, and the respect grew. And David would need that respect because later on in the story, as you read it, Jonathan had to rescue David from his father, who was very jealous of David, because people started seeing that David was God's anointed one, and Saul didn't like that. So what do we learn from that respect? David and Jonathan, the story of David and Jonathan, is a beautiful picture of what God sees with us in relationship and what that friendship should be. A respect for each other. You see, they spent time together. And David and Jonathan's friendship probably would have lasted forever had Jonathan not died in the battle fairly quickly after they had associated together so well. Saul went to see a witch of Endor, and because he did that, he lost his kingdom and he lost the power of God, and his whole family was kind of cursed because of what Saul did. So, God doesn't look very, very highly on that kind of thing, or trying to. And Saul wanted to know what the future of the battle was going to be, and he had turned away from the prophets and turned his back on God and sought the enemy for the answer, and God removed his spirit from Saul, and they died. His whole line died. But let's get back to the respect. The respect that Jonathan had for David is paralleled in the respect that we need to have for the Father. Now I want to ask you, this is kind of like one of the key things that we at Deeper Level Mentoring use as part of understanding what our mighty men are. Because David learned the lesson from Jonathan, what a true friend was, that when Jonathan would conquer an army, he would gather the mighty men. And they had an opportunity either to serve him and serve his God, or they could be slaughtered with the king. Most of them chose to follow him. And at first it probably was a little bit of tension, but David was such a good friend and treated them so well that his loyalty and devotion was well received and reciprocated with them. And that's kind of the thing that we do today in our program. And it's kind of like that relationship with God. Who do you have in your life that if you became paraplegic or couldn't use your arms and legs, who do you have in your life that would come into your life and take care of the nasty details and still treat you with love and respect? In other words, they would feed you, they would wipe your tushy, make sure that you were clean and comfortable. And the key, though, is and treat you with love and respect. That's the way the Father treats us. The Father is there for us regardless. And we need to be an emulate of that. I know that so many guys have kind of walked away from the Lord, walked away from everything, and and then they're surprised. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just waiting for you to be ready. And should that never happen, I don't think that I've waited in vain, because you're worth it. So I want you to read Samuel, 1 Samuel 13. And gentlemen, those of you who are doing the Bible study with me, where we're looking at 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, this will be in it because it carries throughout. And it's probably the first bromance, and probably a true kindred love between brothers that aren't related at all. Jonathan and David were not related. Jonathan was anointed the new king. David was anointed the new king, and Saul had issues with that because God had removed his spirit from Saul because of his disobedience. So I want us to understand that, and I want us to look. I want to just make sure I didn't miss anything that I wanted to say in this. What does it mean to be a real friend, and is this a lesson you need to learn? I've had good close friends that have kind of stabbed me in the back. I've had good friends that have been friends forever. They've been loyal and faithful. And I enjoy it doesn't take much for me to celebrate. I enjoy just hanging out with people or just talking to people. What are some of the things that you require in your friendships? What is some of the things that you want? David and Jonathan shared battle strategies. They shared that tenacity. And although Jonathan didn't have it for Goliath, he really appreciated that David, who was a very small shepherd boy, had the tenacity for this giant. Goliath was a giant. They say he was like 9 feet tall. He was big. And he was probably very scary. But David knew that God would take care of him. And that's probably part of the key. And the respect that we have for the Lord. Will the Lord take care of you? Yes, he will. Sometimes even when you're not very loyal to him, he'll step in still. But I know that, so many people say, the promises in the Bible, You will not get the promises in the Bible unless you look at what the criteria for the promise is. Very few promises in the Bible don't have something that they need you to do, whether it's seek the Lord, whether it's, whatever. Like my life verse is Jeremiah 29:11 through 14. And basically it's saying, I have plans for you, great plans, amazing plans, but you will never see them unless you seek me with your whole heart. And if you do, you'll find me, and I will restore you to everything that you had before and more. But you won't do it unless you seek me with your whole heart. And that's sometimes hard to do. Now, listen, I've been through this before because I'm old and I've preached this before. I know, gentlemen, that you go nuts to win a girl's heart. You'll do almost anything. You stand on your head. You do almost anything. The Lord understands that. He understands that. What will you do to seek him? And ladies, let's not mix words either. I've been in youth ministry for too long and seen boys' names written all over folders, or girls' names with a boy's last name, or even sometimes give up something that's very precious to you just to get the heart of a boy to know that it's just a game. So what will you do to seek the Lord? He doesn't want much. He wants your heart. He wants you. And he wants you not playing games, but the real you, who you are. Is this something you need? Is it something you need to look at? Do you need to find friends? Do you need to find a circle of mighty men, or understand that principle to find people that are actually going to be there for you? And gentlemen, the only women that can be in your mighty men circle is your mother, if she's going to point you back to Christ, and your wife if she's going to point you back to Christ. That's the key, because the people in your mighty men's circle will point you back to Christ. Ladies, it's the same thing. The only men that should be in your mighty women's circle or your prayer warrior circle is your husband, if he's going to point you back to Christ, and your father, if they're going to point you back to Christ. You need people that are going to be real with you and not just, not be cruel, but be real and honest with you. And that's probably the biggest key. I hope you have a great day. Listen, I send out my devotions Monday through Friday. I've had only 2 people in the past week say, I don't want this anymore. And that is fine. Please tell me. It goes out to a lot of people. So if you don't want it and you're getting it on Facebook, that probably means you're going to get blocked. No offense, but that's the only way that I can make it happen, because I've tried it and it still gets through to people. If you're getting it on text, let me know, and I probably will just erase it and erase you from my phone for now. I'll still be able to receive messages for you, but I won't. There's certain things in place that automatically send it, because it just goes out to too many people. Right now, the devotion goes out to between 6,000 and 7,000 people. Church on the Net, when it's done, usually hits about the same number. And I just want to do what you want. If you don't want it, that's fine. That's fine. You're not going to offend me, because it was designed to be a pick-me-up anyways. If you'd like to support our ministry and you believe in what we do, all that information will be down, also with the devotion and kind of a reference of what we talked about today. Have a great day, and God bless you all.